welcome to the show called What's on Your Mind, where the show is about real people, about real issues, having a real conversations on Friday.
Elizabeth, I live in LA and I am a producer, and I also practice meditation, and I'm getting a meditation certificate. And I have a group that we are trying to promote meditation amongst Black women.
All right. Love it. All right. Thank you.
I'm Leelynn, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I also, now I have a daytime job, and it's awesome. But I'm a web and graphic designer as well, and I also do that freelance. So I do have clients on and off. I try to do a lot of things, so I have to be very selective with my time. But right now I have a YouTube channel, and I've been putting most of my time towards that besides work. I do work a lot of hours. So, but it's leelynn.com.
Do you feel men are more toxic or less toxic today than previous? Who wants to jump right in on that one? That's a big one. I
want to wait to hear what you have to say, because I've now.
So there's been a lot. I'm not going to name any names, but definitely on YouTube. YouTube, there have been two of the biggest stars on YouTube that have been exposed because of their old videos. Mm-hmm. And then I think that in the world as a whole, there are toxic people. And I've always thought this in my personal opinions before everything exploded. I actually prayed. I feel like God answered my prayer because I wanted evil people to be exposed.
Yeah.
And it's happening. But I also think that there are toxic people. And when you combine toxic people who have power and money, it can be a lot worse, and they can get away with it as long as people allow them to.
Well, when I first saw the question, I thought to myself, it's all relative, really. Like, men are definitely toxic, and they were then, back in the day as well. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we've now made laws that say, no, you cannot hit your spouse anymore, because that used to be a thing that was allowed, and we're allowed to beat on your wives.
Right.
There were so many laws like that didn't allow people to get divorces. Mm-hmm. There were laws that were put in place to make it so that women had to depend on men.
Yeah.
And we don't have those kind of laws anymore. So, there are still some laws that we still need to work on in order to, give women the same rights as men. But it's not nearly where it was, where women weren't allowed to vote and a number of things. So one can easily say, they were more toxic back then because they had laws to back it up. But, we still live in a patriarchal society.
Yes.
So as long as the fox is making the rules,
Right. Either of you, do you feel that women are evolving and taking more charge and precedence over this whole thing and kind of calming that situation down a bit?
I'm kind of torn between in that question, because we live in especially in America, because if you watch foreign news, which I do enjoy watching, and especially
I do too, because you get the whole scope of the world.
Get a different perspective.
Yes.
So I'm just going to speak for in America. This is the narrative that the news is willing to show right now.
Yeah.
And something can happen tomorrow. Something can happen a week from now. And then our voices in the media will be silenced. So that's another thing. How far is a person willing to go? Yes, one person can make a change, but it takes eventually other people to join in on that. And
like the saying, it takes a village.
Exactly.
It takes a village for all of us to get further ahead,
And we have to stick to our beliefs and be strong in that.
Right.
And knowing that, is it something worth dying for, really, at the end of the day? Because of all if you think about other overseas things that have happened, I think there are bad men and there are bad women and there are bad women who help support bad men. So that's a whole nother systemic thing. And when you have a bad man running something that is beyond his control, and then you have someone who, or a number of people underneath him, it causes for a bad situation altogether. And
what do you think, Elizabeth, since both of you guys are in the entertainment industry, but Elizabeth, you're on the production end.
Mm-hmm.
Your experience, can you share any experience beyond in that environment of toxicity with men?
I think when they're in charge, it's always, you know, I mean, I think when it's environments, not in my experience, but like.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no.
You don't hear that often.
I was going to say something, you know, I shouldn't have started that sentence that way, but I was going to say, not in my experience has it been where I've ever lived in a matriarchal environment, environment. Like, I don't know any countries that are like that, you know what I mean, where women are the ones in power. But I know that would probably have its problems as well. You know what I mean? So
of course,
now we live in a patriarchal society. It's very, very concentrated when it comes to the film industry and entertainment industry. Entertainment industry is very, very, very egocentric. It's very ego driven.
Right.
And I don't know any, you know, I mean, as it pertains to the two genders, I'm not trying to be controversial here. I don't want to get you in trouble, but like, I feel like men are a little more egocentric than women, and to be in that environment, a lot of times you see a lot of, you know, just who's in charge, what's it look like, and that kind of, everybody's very concerned with appearances.
I want to add on to that. I think it's important. I think it's never gotten to something, a bad situation to worse, is because we have to teach people also how to treat us and what we are willing to accept and not to accept. And that's our responsibility. And the best advice I ever had was from an acting coach who said, you just have to take care of yourself on the set because nobody else will do it.
Nobody else will. Yeah, exactly. And get your feedback. Now, given that people think about women a certain way based on their dress, what are your thoughts and experiences with that? You know, what you wear, people look at you. What do you think? The way a woman dress, you know, wherever she goes, she's being, you know, looked upon as what? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
Go ahead. I was waiting for your.
Yeah, I feel like, women are definitely judged by the way they dress, and it's wrong. You know, people shouldn't be defined by what they're wearing, you know, and unfortunately that's the world we live in. But in my personal experience, I don't know, I'm pretty conservative with how I dress. I guess mine would be about people making assumptions about me on the basis of how I dress. I've worn, you know, like, I don't know, I've gone through different phases, as we all do, you know, and there are also things that I have to think about as a woman with big breasts that other people may not have to think about. So a lot of times, you know, somebody can look at you and think that you're a certain way just because, you know, maybe your clothes don't fit right. I mean, there's so many things that goes into how people are judged on the basis of how they dress, especially when it comes to women. And I know that I'm sure, especially when I was young and I was trying to figure out what kind of bras work and what kind of shirts to wear. And, you know,
I think we all were.
Oh, right. Like,
exactly.
All kinds of whatevers. And,
right.
But, you know, the good thing is that I know how to dress for the right occasion, which is something that I also had to learn. But there's so much that goes into how we're dressed, you know? So. Yeah.
What do you think, Leelynn?
I think that there are, when I like to read quotes, but I also consume way too much social media, including YouTube as being one of those things. But I wish I could say who said this, but I saw a quote that really struck a chord with me, and it had something to do with whether or not a rapist would rape a woman dressed in a certain way, but they're already sick to begin with. And I don't think it might be bold for me to say this. This is just my personal opinion. I have no data to back
this is a show called What's on Your Mind. So let it go.
I think that if a rapist was going to rape someone that they have been stalking, or just a woman in general, it doesn't matter what they're wearing at the end of the day. And on another note, I do agree, like if a woman wears something too revealing, then yes, it will draw attention. But similarly, if a man wears something very revealing,
right,
their pants. I have some flamboyant friends in California. So like, then if he happened to wear pants that had holes in particular places, of course he's going to get attention. So
what about when you wear it in the office, like if you're in the corporate America?
You should study the culture before you get any job interview. You should, I think it's smart to see how far it is from your house, but also drive by to see what people, when they leave work, what they're wearing.
Yeah.
You really, really want the job. Also, not only that, you do that for your own protection to see if that culture fits you. And you can do research online so that by the time that you get to that job interview, you're not just having them interview you, you're interviewing them, because that's a place that you're going to be there for hours and hours at a time, around people, hopefully, who are good. And if it's a toxic environment, again, when is it going to be your breaking point? Because we rely at least in the environment that I'm in, or in America, we need the money, unfortunately, the way that this society is set up in this world. So it's not as easy just to quit your job because something bad happened at work. And when is that breaking point where you decide, okay, this place is toxic, I have to leave? Hopefully a person would leave a job because of something good happening, but that's not always the case.
Right. Do you think, go ahead, Elizabeth, go ahead.
One thing that I was thinking also is that a lot of times we don't realize how much people are gate kept out of certain jobs because they can't afford the proper attire to be able to work somewhere. Right. They said that that's one of the biggest things that weeds people out, is sometimes they don't even know what to wear on a job interview, or they don't have enough money for the suit or whatever it takes. So it's also it's a gender issue for sure, but it's also a class issue, and that's also tied into race. Everything is kind of connected, and so it's definitely something to think about when it comes to marginalized people, or just anybody in general. Is that it's easy to say, oh, wear this, you should know better, but it's not always like that, Yeah,
it's not always the case. Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. How do we get the women, or how do we get this view to be changed at all? Is there any way to change this view?
There's a nonprofit organization, and I hope I don't say the name wrong. I believe it's called Dress for Success.
Well, that's one of them.
And they have clothes for women who can wear that to a job interview. Also, I started my journey on a temp agency, so I really didn't think about, I mean, I was younger, so I have to admit, I thought those videos were boring, but now I realize that those videos they have when you first start a job at any temp agency, they make you watch videos on dress code. So that's really important, but you can find them online. And then I think, if you want to be successful, one of the smartest things you can do is realize that you don't know anything, and ask people who you think are successful on what to wear to that particular job interview, and guide yourself in a way that you can find out that company culture.
Right. But how do you change? Is it a way to change the perception where that is not an issue? Is there a way to have a conversation about, attire and things like that, even before you get there? Is there a way to change that view in society?
Okay, in society, because I was going to say, if you're talking about in the workplace.
Yeah, in the society. Well, the society that puts those views inside the workplace. Mm-hmm. Is there the way to change that narrative?
I think there was something that really, I think, affected society as well, American society. I don't even know if this was on, it probably was. I don't know if it was on foreign news, but there's this young woman, I want to say she was in her 20s, who had a bikini outfit on Instagram, and she got fired from her office job from that. And I think that was, in my opinion, going too far. She was on vacation. She didn't wear it to work in the office. It was before she got the job. And it's not uncommon for people to go, I don't know if she wore that before she got the job, but it's not uncommon for people to take a short vacation before they have a new job.
Yeah.
And I think that changed the narrative. I think she got hired somewhere else. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But I think it made people wake up and realize, oh, well, okay, so that had nothing, it had no reflection on her skills at her job, whether or not she was performing. I don't know if she showed up on time, but those are things that should be taken into account when not just what they're wearing. It's so much more than that. And there have been things that, I mean, even politicians have done that, and they're still in office, that have worn or done. But I have to admit, and especially when it comes to news, in the past, the narrative might change. But if a woman did something, it was like outlandish, and it's a harder mountain to climb to recover from, I feel like. Well, just being as a woman in entertainment.
I'm going to give Lizzie B, I'm going to let you do a final comment of anything that we talked about that you want to share more with the audience.
Well, you know, I don't know. I think that things are changing, and I'm happy about it. I think that women are waking up to our power. And I think that the only way that we can see change is when women really start to take control of what we know we have power over.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'm excited to see that, to see us tap into our power.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for being on the show. The show is called What's on Your Mind. We thank you and appreciate you, and we'll be chatting with you soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great one.
You too.